Hey guys, so I'd like to thank the Satvi team for having me over for this talk on the Rafale. Um, I basically wanted to, because there's so much nonsense going on about it, what I wanted to do with you guys was to basically clarify 5 points. Uh, all that you've heard about the cost, what you've heard about timelines and process violations, why was it whittled down to just 36 aircraft, um, why was it given to that evil demon Ambani, and finally, how do you tell if corruption happens in this deal? So the first thing is the cost, right? You keep hearing about why this whole price escalated. It was depending on what figure Mr. Rahul Gandhi dreams up on that particular date, vacillates somewhere between 1,200 crores to about 1,700 crores. Um, well, the point is actually very simple. If you had actually bothered, if anybody in the Indian press or in the Indian Defense Ministry in 2012 had actually bothered going and doing some basic internet research, they would have found a 2009 report online to the French Senate, which was costing out in great detail the Rafale costs for the French government. And we know that was the total cost because at that point of time, the only country that had purchased the Rafale was the country of manufacture, France. And if you actually divided the total program cost by the number of units the French bought, it was something like around 222 million euros per plane upwards. Now, you would think that anyone in their right mind would actually bother doing their due diligence when a company submits a proposal, read it, and then at the very least, have the education to do a Google search, right? But guess what? Google search apparently isn't fashionable in the defense ministry. So nobody bothered doing it. We got shafted with a plane that on paper cost 80 million. And this was pretty much like walking into, say, an Audi showroom asking for the A8 for 8 lakhs. And what does the salesman tell you? He says, yes, sir, you can have an Audi for 8 lakhs. He'll give you the Audi minus the tires, minus the engine, minus the steering wheel, minus the airbags, minus everything else. And when you add up everything, it comes to 1.2 crores. And that's exactly what happened in this deal. So why was it, and this is a very important point, if the deal that was being offered to the government before 2014 was so good, what prevented the government from signing that deal for those 2 years? Here's the thing, it wasn't that good. That price escalation was happening every single day. First, the French said, bring it up to $14 billion from the $10 billion. The government said, okay. When they went for the second round of negotiations, they said, oh, no. Now it's $21 billion. And the government said, okay. Then they took it all the way up to $36 billion. And again, the government said, okay. And here's the point. There was absolutely no money to buy 126 planes because when you spend $40 billion, now the purchase cost is only 1/3 of the total cost of a plane. So if you spend $40 billion today on the Rafale, on 126 Rafales, over its 30-year life cycle, you're looking at spending $120 billion. $120 billion is $4 billion a year on your defense budget of around $40 billion. Unsustainable. You cannot have one piece of equipment that takes up 10% of your budget. It would have wrecked the entire defense budget, the entire capital outlay for years to come. So what happens? This new guy, Narendra Modi, he takes over, he looks at it and he says, look, this is unsustainable, we can't do this. And what does he do? He announces 36. Now, there's another very important factor to why 36. Now, you look at the primary nuclear delivery mechanism before all our missiles came online, and we are committed by our doctrine to a triad. So even though our missiles can also lob bombs at the eastern seacoast, by our doctrine, we need to have an aircraft that works as a redundancy. What if your missiles fail? Then the planes have to do it. And that used to be the Mirage 2000. And guess how many Mirage 2000s we bought from France under Mr. Rahul Gandhi's father, Rajiv Gandhi? 47, which ultimately went up to 52. Now remember, this was a much older plane that could do a lot less. And if you actually work the loads down and the ranges down, you find 36 Rafales does the same job that 47 to 52 Mirage 2000s do in dropping nuclear bombs on the Chinese eastern seaboard. So Shanghai, it probably can't reach Beijing, but Shanghai at least it probably can with a bit of effort. So that's why that was the whole story behind cost. And that was the story behind price escalation, and that was the story behind why Modi had to go in for this.